A sheep was a sweater factory, a dairy, a fertilizer company, and a retirement account. So why kill one for dinner? Because on the right day, sacrificing all that future value could buy something bigger: status, belonging, and a feast nobody forgot. Lamb still has a way of announcing that this is not a regular meal. It turns over coals, roasts beside potatoes, fills the room with rosemary and garlic, and suddenly, every relative has an opinion about fire management. But lamb did not become celebration food because one recipe survived untouched from ancient Greece. It did not. The deeper story is about what a sheep was worth while it was alive, how Greek sacrifice turned that value into a sacred meal, why Prometheus gave Zeus the world's worst-looking good deal, and how the person holding the knife could reveal exactly who mattered. By the end, we will come back to the modern table and see why lamb can still make an ordinary day feel like an event. Start with a herder looking at a living sheep. The herder sees wool that can be shorn again, manure for the fields, future lambs, and, if it is a ewe, milk that can become cheese. A flock stored wealth on 4 legs. Adorable, mildly chaotic wealth. That changes the meaning of slaughter. Killing the animal does not just produce meat. It cancels everything the animal might produce tomorrow. So for many households, meat was not the automatic center of every meal. Grain, pulses, olives, vegetables, fish, and cheese handled much of the daily work. Sheep became especially meaningful when the occasion was important enough to justify cashing in the animal's future all at once. Imagine the herder making that decision. Months or years of feeding, guarding, breeding, and watering are about to become one meal. The animal leaves the flock, but its value does not disappear. It changes form, from private wealth into public generosity. That is the first reason lamb feels celebratory. It costs more than the price of the meat. It costs tomorrow. In ancient Greece, one of the most powerful ways to make that transformation was animal sacrifice. There was no single checklist followed in every city for every god. Greek religion had variations on its variations, but a common public sequence went something like this. The animal was selected and led in procession to a sanctuary. Participants carried ritual equipment. Water, barley, garlands, and prayers could mark the animal for the god. Then, skilled hands killed and butchered it. Selected bones and fat were burned on the altar, and the smoke rose toward the divine world. Edible organs might be roasted quickly for a smaller group nearby. Much of the remaining meat could be cooked and divided among human participants. Follow one young person in that procession. They arrive carrying barley in a basket. There is music, movement, prayer, smoke, and a crowd. Later, that same person receives a portion of meat. The ritual has turned belief into something they can hold in a bowl. Sacrifice sounds like food being destroyed. In this common form, it also created dinner. There is an obvious question here. If the gods are immortal, why do they get smoke and bones, while humans keep the edible meat? The Greeks had a story for that, and it begins with Prometheus arranging 2 piles from an ox. In Hesiod's Theogony, one pile contains the good stuff, meat and rich innards, hidden inside the animal's unappealing stomach. The other contains white bones covered with a beautiful layer of shining fat. One pile is dinner in terrible packaging. The other is packaging with no dinner. Zeus chooses the gleaming pile. Hesiod leaves room for Zeus to understand the trick. So this is not necessarily the king of the gods getting fooled by prehistoric clickbait. It is a myth about how the divine and human shares became separate. The gods receive honor through fire, fragrance, and smoke. Humans, who have the irritating mortal habit of needing calories, keep the nourishing meat. Prometheus does not merely butcher the animal. He stages a negotiation. Presentation shapes power, and the prettiest plate is mostly bones. Somewhere, a modern restaurant just felt nervous. Once the gods' share went up in smoke, the human share created a new problem. Who gets which piece? This was not a minor serving detail. Priests might receive designated portions. Honored people could get special cuts. Other shares might be distributed more broadly, sometimes expressing equality, sometimes putting hierarchy on full display. The butcher-cook was not just breaking down an animal. That knife separated shoulder from leg, but it could also separate priest from participant, honored guest from ordinary attendee, insider from outsider. It was a seating chart you could eat. And the cooking was probably less uniformly cinematic than the movies suggest. Homeric poetry loves meat sizzling on spits. Sanctuary archaeology, however, suggests that organs and selected pieces were often roasted, while much of the bulk meat at many ritual meals was boiled in large vessels. Yes, the sacred feast may have looked less like one flawless rack of lamb, and more like a cauldron working overtime. But a cauldron is perfect when the goal is not food photography. It can cook varied cuts, make tougher pieces useful, and stretch one costly animal across a crowd. Roasting creates a centerpiece. Boiling creates portions. And the portion is where the social magic happens. Receiving meat says, you were present, you had a place, and this event included you. Before we march directly from an ancient altar to a modern Easter table, we need to tap the historical brakes. Not all meat in ancient Greece came from sacrifice. Not every sacrifice ended with a community eating the animal. Practices changed by place, period, deity, and purpose. Meat also moved through homes and markets, and some offerings were burned completely. History has declined our request for one neat answer. And a modern Greek lamb feast is not an ancient pagan ritual wearing a Christian name tag. Today's dishes come through later regional cooking, Orthodox Christian traditions, fasting calendars, local landscapes, family techniques, and centuries of change. The recipe changed, the religion changed, the equipment changed. The relative insisting you are turning the spit incorrectly is harder to date. What survives is not a single unbroken recipe. It is a recognizable emotional pattern. So why did lamb become the food of celebration? Because a living sheep held the future: wool, milk, offspring, labor, and time. Slaughtering it meant giving up that future. Ancient Greek sacrifice turned the loss into something larger: honor for the gods, generosity for the host, status for some, and belonging for everyone who received a share. Modern lamb traditions have different recipes, beliefs, and histories, but the old emotional grammar still makes sense. The day is important, so a valuable animal becomes food. People work together. The smell gathers a crowd. The portions move outward, and dinner becomes proof that you were part of the occasion. Lamb announces a celebration because it turns future value into present community. That is the meal beneath the altar. What food tells your family today matters? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe for the next meal beneath the monument.